You have to solve a real problem and deliver real value today, right? So don't start with the technology, start with the problem.
We are in the same space that you focused on, and we are targeting US North America market. And I mean, unfortunately, geographically, we are based in Hanoi.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is the,
I wouldn't think it's unfortunate. Actually, it doesn't matter. I don't think where you are matters. I think the thing that matters is, do you understand the customer, right? That's the most important thing I would focus on. Location is irrelevant, right? So, do you understand the specific problem that you're solving for the customer with your SaaS product, right? And you understand the value that the customer can derive. If you understand that, it actually does not matter where you are. We are in the world right now of distributed companies. Some of the biggest companies that are raising capital today don't have a headquarters, right? They're like a distribution of engineers globally in Berlin, in Argentina, in the Bay Area, in India, in Russia, and such like. So if I were you, I'd really focus on, making sure you have feet on the ground in the US, or at least context of talking to your potential customers who you're selling to, and you understand clearly what their problem is, how your products delivers the value, right, and who's going to buy it, right, and who your competition is. I think I would worry about that.
There is no money that is available in India that can fund market experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Academic incubators we do, but they are very small. We only
Sure.
support some startups with very small money.
Yeah.
It allows them to just validate in India.
Mm-hmm.
But the opportunity is much bigger elsewhere, US or Europe. Do you have any suggestions on what could be some sources they could tap into? Again, assuming they have a compelling proposition, but
Yeah.
free revenue. Do you have any suggestions on what sources they can tap into?
That's my question.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like while it's not as kind of dense investors environment in terms of as in the Bay Area, I do think that at least the last 18 months I've spent here, there's enough sophisticated investors who are looking at B2B companies, who understand the space, who are willing to take early stage bets, and these are all like the standard US venture capital firm with a leg here, in addition to some of the newer India specific funds. So one thing I'd suggest, I think, is typically, so let's invert it for a minute, right? As an investor, how do I find companies that are interesting? I'm always looking for interesting companies, right? And sometimes that sort of, do you have enough platforms where you can discover these companies? Maybe that's the real problem, because I do think that there's capital available. There's a lot of capital chasing ideas in India as well. I can tell you that. Maybe it is as a platform as IIIT, you guys need to sort of be able to provide some a meeting point for these investors and these companies, because I don't know that I would say that there's Indian investors. There's no such thing as Indian investors now. I think it's an international set of investors. There's Chinese investors here, there's US investors here, there's European investors, there's corporate investors, right? Microsoft, Cisco, Salesforce, Google, everybody's investing here. So there's lots of pools of capital. I think perhaps the gap here is a platform that provides these companies visibility to those investors, and those investors visibility into opportunities to invest, right? I feel that's perhaps the gap. The stage of investment, right, the way it goes is you have angels, right, who are like, okay, your friends and family, whoever they're going to put in some money. You'll raise about like $1 million or $2 million. I'm talking about a typical US startup. So that allows you, right? Right? That's right. It's a US startup. By the way, if you raise $1 million in the Bay Area, you can do nothing, right? Literally, yeah, because the cost is so high for just facilities, or even to high. You effectively have like 12 months runway, right? You don't even have a landing space. So into 70 obviously sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's all relative, right? So you raise that much, and then that allows you to basically at least build a prototype of a product that allows you to go to seed. And for seed, you need validation for 2 to 3 customers. So the seed investor basically says, let me talk to 2 or 3 credible customers who can basically say, I'm interested in this concept, I will buy this, I'm piloting these guys, right? So that gets you to seed. Again, in the US context, that's about, you raise about 2.5 to 3 million, right? So that gives you another runway for another 12 months, 18 months or so. So at that point, you need about 10 customers who are paying you, okay? Then you raise a Series A, right? So that's a typical progression in the US.
So how important is the automation of AI investment is happening? So in fact, Automate Anywhere is a similar kind of company. They do a lot of automation using AI, right? So we are automating the actual data science.
Yeah. So if I answer your question, we see a ton of AI companies.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is any company with AI, we talk to them. I'll tell you something about AI. A lot of AI, unfortunately, and this is extremely smart people, right? So I was talking to a professor from University of Michigan, brilliant guy, working on NLP, right? There's a team out of CMU. They're like some of the top institutes, just like you guys are doing some deep tech work here. The challenge is, forget about it, technology does not matter, right? I'll go back to what I said earlier. What is the problem you're solving? What is the real value of the customer? Can you measure the value that the customer can derive? If you can answer that question, it doesn't matter if you have AI or deep learning or whatever else, the singularity, it does not matter, right? You have to solve a real problem and deliver real value today, right? So don't start with the technology, start with the problem. That's my only. We struggle with this because we see tens of really, really smart people with incredibly complex technology. It's like a hammer looking for a nail. Like where's my nail? Like I got a hammer. Like now I got to go bang something, right? And so you keep banging on stuff. You have to basically identify the nail and then figure out, well, do I need a Phillips screwdriver or do I need like a hammer, right?
In B2C, the eternal problem is the feedback and the recommendation engine for common people who are non-English speaking.
Yes.
Do you think there's a potential?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the biggest market potential in India is actually the vernacular market, right? So there's this very famous pyramid. I'm sure you guys have seen it, and Tia has it as well, which talks about the top tier of the market is the metros, the Hyderabad's, the Delhi, Bombay, and such like, which is essentially 1% of the population, right? It is the highest earning capacity, but most startups, 90% of the startups we see are targeting that 1% of the Indian consumer market, right? The biggest potential is kind of that India 2, which is essentially tier 2, tier 3 cities, and rural India, where the economic they actually now have spending capital, right? So they actually are able to spend, but they don't really have targeted offers to them yet. So you're starting to see some early companies in that space. So I think if you're a B2C, absolutely, there's a huge market there, but you'll need to sort of understand that it's not as obvious.